Let's call to order the November 9, 2018 meeting of the Admin Committee. And we'll open if we have any board member concerns. Mr. Benoit, do you have any concerns?
None here, sir.
Okay. None there. Mr. Parker? Dr. Burke?
None here.
Okay, then we'll have none of those. Do we have any approved travel?
None to report, Dr. Burke.
Out-of-country travel?
None to report.
Are there any questions on the December 7th board meeting agenda?
Will this one be longer than our last meeting?
Okay.
No other
Do
questions.
we have any board member consultants to approve?
No, sir.
Okay, item 6, Sunjata?
Good morning, Dr. Burke. Good morning, members of the committee. Sujata Jain, Assistant Deputy Executive Officer of Finance. This item is to present the results of our financial audit for the fiscal year 17-18. And to present these results, we have our auditors today from BCA Watson Rice. We have Michael DeCastro, who is the managing partner. We have Helen Chu, who is the assurance partner. And Helen is going to do the presentation, so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Helen Chu, and I'm the engagement partner for BCA Watson Rice. And this is the final communication that is required by our standards with the administrative committee to go over the results of the financial and the single audit for the fiscal year end June 30, 2018. I am going to go over the audit results. I'm going to also go over the financial highlights, our required communication, the management letter comments, and then we'll have an open discussion and questions. I'd like to say that we have issued a unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements. And the financial statements consisted of the governmental activities, the business type activities, blended component unit, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining funds. In addition, we also issued a report on internal controls over financial reporting and compliance in accordance with government auditing standards. And there were no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies. Also, with regards to the single audit, compliance with each major federal program, we have issued an unmodified or a clean opinion. A separate report on internal control for compliance was also issued, and there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And lastly, we have a separate report on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, and again, there's a clean opinion. The schedule of expenditures of federal awards were fairly stated in all material respects in relation to the basic financial statements. The next item is the financial highlights. The total assets of the South Coast Air Quality Management District exceeded its total liabilities at the end of FY 2018 by $582.9 million, which is your net position. Also, the total net position increased from prior year by $83.1 million. Most of the increases was due to increased revenues in long-term emission reduction projects. The governmental funds reported a combined ending fund balances of $742.9 million, which is an increase of $83 million in comparison to prior year. Actual revenues exceeded the final budget by $5.1 million, or 3.4%, due to higher than anticipated settlements revenue and emission fees revenue. And then expenditure savings were $11.1 million, or 6.8% of the final budget. And the savings were attributed to salary savings from filling only critical vacant positions throughout the year, and prudent purchase decisions and postponing contract work and fixed asset purchases. In addition, pages 7 through 10 of the slides is basically other required communication that we are supposed to communicate to you. And basically, our responsibility under the General Assembly auditing standard is to provide reasonable, not absolute assurance about whether the basic financial statements are free of material misstatement. There were no illegal acts identified during the audit. There were 2 GASBs, General Accounting Standards Board, that were adopted during fiscal year June 30, 2018, and that was GASB 75 and GASB 85. On note 1F of the CAFR, you will find more information on those 2 GASBs. There were no significant or unusual transactions. We did not discuss with management any alternative treatments which generally accept accounting principles for accounting policies and practices related to the material item during the audit period. There were no significant issues discussed with management. We had no disagreements with management. There were no difficulties encountered. We did request certain representation from management, which we have included in the management representation letter, and we are independent with respect to South Coast Air Quality Management District. And there were only client proposed adjustments. There were no audit adjustments. Now, management letter, basically during the course of our audit, we identify any recommendations or improvements to the process or your internal controls. We would issue a separate management letter with those recommendations, and there are no management letter comments. As required, I believe the last time we were here, you guys had requested that we still issue a separate management letter, and we did on a separate letter, and we did document that we noted no matters involving internal controls and operation matters as presented for your consideration. And then lastly is any questions at this time?
No questions here?
Any questions by any of my colleagues? Is there any action needed? Barbara, is there any action that's needed on this item? Do we need to accept this by vote?
Receive and file.
No, it's just a receive and file.
Okay, fine. It says no motion required. Okay, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, Sujata, item 7.
Good morning, Dr. Burke. Once again, good morning, committee members. This item is to present the budgeted versus actual results for the first quarter that ended on September 30th, 2018. And in this presentation, we'll go over a brief summary of the budget, and then we'll get into comparison of the revenues and expenditures. And then based on those, we've done a 5-year projection. So the first slide is showing the adopted budget, which was a balanced budget at $162.6 million. And then there have been some amendments in the first quarter. And then the actuals are showing that the revenues have come in at $51.4 million and expenditures are at $41.8 million. And we'll show that in the next slide, a little bit detail. The revenues are showing, in the slide, we have the broad categories: admission fees, annual fees, permit fees, etc. And what we did is we pulled last year's first quarter information just as a comparison to see where we are at in the first quarter. And so you can see that we are pretty much trending where we should be in the first quarter as far as the revenues are concerned, except in the category that says other. And the reason for that is that in the first quarter of last year, we did not have the AB 617 revenue, and we have that now. So that's being reflected over there. On the expenditure side, we again have the broad categories, salaries and benefits, service and supplies, etc. And we did a similar comparison with the last year first quarter expenditures. And you can see that pretty much we are where we should be for salaries and service and supplies, etc. The only one is capital outlays, and we'll be purchasing those as we go throughout the year. So with that, we did a 5-year projection, and there's a couple of things going on in this 5-year projection. We've showed the results of fiscal year 17-18, which was, better than expected by $8.8 million, and so it increased the fund balance. The other thing that we are showing is that all the board letters that are asking for any appropriations up to October, we have factored that into our projections, which is about 1.5 million. And then also we have projected the appropriations we'll be asking in the board letter. That's the mid-year adjustment that you'll see in the next couple items down. So with that, having projected all that, we are coming up with a 5-year projection. And you can see that our fund balance reserve is above the 20%, or will be at 20%, at least in the third year. And then, it'll go down, but we'll manage that as we go through and build our next year's budget. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
On your capital expenditure projection, you had budgeted, the figure went by very quickly. I think it was either 1.5 million or 1.8 million.
1.4 million for fiscal year 18-19, Dr. Burke?
And you spent zero.
Yes, so far in this quarter, we might have executed the contracts, or they'll be coming through soon, Dr. Burke, but in any given quarter.
Do you know what those contracts are?
Building maintenance services, building upkeep.
There could be some for building and some for infrastructure,
Right.
for soft, IM type of stuff.
Some of the 86.
Yes, there could be some
Well,
86
one of
So,
those
Dr. Berg, it could be some
Buy
of
the whole
the AB 617 related expenses that we got the money. This is Jill Wynett. It could be some of the AB 617 expenses the board approved in January, but since we didn't get the money till June,
Yes.
we're a little behind in ordering some of the equipment. We didn't want to go ahead
Okay,
and
I
order
got it.
until we got the funds in hand.
Okay, fine.
Did we ever finish doing the infrastructure wiring for the internet fiber?
We did, yes, we did.
Okay. Thank you for the report. It requires no motion, so we'll move on. Are there any other questions by my colleagues?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 8.
Good morning, Dr. Burke, members of the committee. Ron Moskowitz, ADEO of Information Management. I have a lot of good news to report. First, our new mobile app went into production last week and is now available in Apple's App Store. The app has been very well received, and so far we've been given all 4 and 5 star reviews by the users. We are already working on the next phase of the app, which will include find integration, complaints integration, notification enhancements, and some various other improvements based off of the feedback we received from the beta testing. We are also on track with our Office 365 project and have finalized the implementation of migration plans and are in the process of procuring licensing. Lastly, we've completed 2 of the remaining 6 EGIS milestones, which included the EGIS data development, and we're on schedule with this project. Everything else is going well, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ron, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Why is the wireless in the main auditorium so poor?
The wireless in the main auditorium, we actually added a number of access points to the auditorium and throughout the building. So I can do another heat scan to determine if there are any dead spots in the auditorium, and then report back to you on that.
I'd appreciate that, because it seems like the rest of the building is great, but in the meeting room where we meet, it's not so hot.
Okay. Well, I'll draw that stand and I'll fix it and I'll give you that report.
Okay, thank you so much.
You bet.
Okay, item number 9, Jill, why not?
Okay, good morning. We actually have a board letter with several major parts here. Sujata just reported that we did better for our mid-year budget cycle than we expected. So the first part of the request in this board letter is to reinstate the items that we cut back when the board approved the budget in order to make it balanced. So that includes $3.6 million. And then we also are requesting that we add some other items that are necessary for us to implement important programs, like the initiative we want to do with the China government for getting the clean ships here. So that is the mid-year budget adjustment. There's also a no change for fiscal impact, but we'd also like to add Chief Information Officer to Ron Moswitz's ADEO title. The second part is a major adjustment for the second year of AB 617.
Okay, Jill, can you
Yes, sir.
take a second and explain that to me about the 2 additional spots?
Yes, we need some help to augment the staff's capabilities for the China shipping project. So basically, we were looking to add, I'm looking for my table here. We were adding 2 program supervisors, I believe, for.
And how much is that?
Sorry, thank you. It's about $300,000, $400,000 for the program supervisor.
For 2 people?
And that includes
For 2 people?
that includes all the benefits and overhead associated with those positions.
Dr. Parker and I would like to apply for those positions.
I already have my application in. Sure.
The salary for a program supervisor, if I recall, is about $124. And these are important positions for this effort. Yes, they're compensated nicely. They work very hard.
Okay.
Okay. And yeah, they may have to go to China too. So for AB 617, in January, the board approved 36.5 new positions and some contracts and other capital outlays out of the initial $10.8 million that we were given for the first year. For this next year and the following year, we anticipate that the South Coast SCAQMD will get $20 million, which is a lot of money, but as you know, there's a tremendous amount of work. We have 3 of the 10 communities statewide that we have to do emissions monitoring, community reduction plans, lots of outreach and meeting. There's a lot of annual emissions reporting work and BARC rule development involved. So the request is to add an additional 47 positions, which is a little over $3.6 million, $200,000 in contracts, and an additional $4.5 million for capital outlay. And that covers everything from cars and vans for the new personnel to get out into the field, to a lot more monitoring and lab equipment, upgrading A2 spec, adding a second chamber, and a lot of other moving parts. So that is a major request, and we are holding back a little bit of the $20 million because we're probably going to need to expand our Long Beach office space and or make some improvements down to where the city of Diamond Bar used to be in order to house the new people.
Where is this money coming from?
This is from the state. It comes out of the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund that funds the AB 617.
So this does not adjust, our budget.
It will. We will ask the board to recognize the $20 million when we receive it from CARB, and it will get added to the budget.
And the expenditures.
And
Oh,
expenditures
but-
as well.
But we don't have to take that out of our current budget?
No, we do not. We are getting paid for all the
Okay.
additional work.
That's all I care about.
So that's a zero-sum game. Yes. Important to me as well. And then the third part of this is we're fortunate that we're going to be getting some money from the VW mitigation program. And we're going to be asking the board to recognize the money. We're going to need 5 new staff in order to help implement the program pieces commensurate with that additional funding. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
What are those 5 new staff members?
I have,
Dr. Parker has a question.
Okay.
I think,
Go ahead.
Judy, do you have a question? Okay.
I heard you say a moment ago that you were going to be expanding your Long Beach office. Was that correct?
We have a field staff in the Long Beach area. We have a small office space where we have maybe about 10 or so folks, inspectors primarily that are responsible for responding to refinery complaints and doing the inspections. So we've had a field office there for many years. We're looking now with AB 617 in that area in the Wilmington-Carson area, and also with Rule 1180, the fence line monitoring. It may make sense for us to have staff in that area. So we're looking at the same building, but potentially just expanding our footprint there a little bit so we can have more field staff there for these programs. No decisions have been made on that yet.
Do we have similar field offices in San Bernardino, Riverside, and Los Angeles?
At this time, we do not. Many years ago, we used to have a Colton office where we had permit engineers and inspectors. We've actually been talking about that and looking into maybe partnering with other organizations. It worked well in Paramount. We actually had some office space in one of the city buildings that some of our folks could be in for a while. So it's something that we're going to look into. But right now, the only field office we have is Long Beach.
Okay. Okay. Any further information from you, Ms. Wynot?
No, that's it on this. Did you have a question?
No, I got it.
You want- Okay.
I'll go ahead and move the item, sir.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second. Would the clerk call the roll?
Mayor Benoit,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell,
Yes.
Dr. Parker,
Yes.
Dr. Burke,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Item number 10, Ms. Nakamura.
Hi, this is Mike Krause, Planning and Rules Manager. Good morning, Chairman Burke and members of the committee. As you know, we are currently working on the development of Rule 1109.1, and this is one of the landing rules. We transition out of reclaim. It's focused on refinery equipment. In that process, we are doing a BART analysis. It's the best available retrofit control technology analysis. Staff will be conducting that analysis. However, what we're seeking here is an RFP for an independent third-party consultant to basically verify our work. The primary focus is to review the feasibility of those emission limits that we choose, the emission reductions that we're estimating, as well as the cost effectiveness. We're doing an extensive outreach to our engineering consultant list and other folks that have expressed interest. We will have this RFP online to continue the word out there and get some good, robust response back. But we are only seeking one engineering consulting firm to do the work. This is a $100,000 up to limited at $100,000, and this will come out of the AB 617 funding, so not out of our direct budget.
Okay, thank you. I'll accept a motion on this item.
We have a public comment on this, Mr. Chair. Susan Stark. Want to take that now?
I'm sorry?
We have one public
Public
comment.
comment. Somebody wants to speak to that.
Okay.
It's Susan Stark. Go ahead, Susan.
All right. Susan Stark with Marathon Petroleum Company. A little bit of background. We were previously known as Tesoro Endeavor. We merged with Marathon Petroleum last month. So we wanted to say that we're fully in support of this RFP for the independent review. We think it's well structured and crafted. We did have a couple of points to emphasize, though. We noticed that there is a review panel that will include inside staff and outside experts, and we would ask that WISPA be included on that review panel. For instance, they're on the MATES 5 technical advisory group, so in a similar capacity, be able to review the proposals that come in. We note that field visits are mentioned, particularly to the calciner. That's my company. We really welcome having the site visit. We would stress that as much as possible, extend site visits beyond the calciner, include other refineries, other facilities that would be covered by 1109.1. We note that not only equipment costs, but installation cost will be included in the review. We think it's very important that the firm that is chosen is experienced in that. We note that it says preferably consultants in the refinery field. We think that that's really essential, that not just preferred to be in the experienced in the refinery field, but that they are experienced. Because things like installation cost, it's surprising. Let's say a piece of equipment like an SCR costs $10 million, it can cost $100 million to install it. For things like infrastructure upgrades, foundations, additional ducting, there's just a lot that goes into that. So experience there is critical. And then familiarity with labor costs in Southern California, which may not be the same in the East Coast or elsewhere. So that's important. And then we also note in the RFP that a concurrent look at other pollutants will be included. So we think that's very good that that's occurring, particularly on constituents like PM. So thank you.
Very good. That's all we have here.
Thank you, Susan. I want you to know that when I was a young man in Cleveland, Ohio, the first credit card I ever got was from Marathon Oil. I'm still trying to pay it. Can we have a motion on this item?
Move approval.
I'll second.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Mayor Benoit,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell,
Yes.
Dr. Parker,
Yes.
Dr. Burke,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Oliveira?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Burke. Good morning, members of the committee. John Olvera, Assistant Deputy Executive Officer for Administrative and Human Resources. Item 11 is to request approval to enter into a contract with California Dining Services to operate the Diamond Bar Headquarters Cafeteria. As the result of an RFP process, staff recommends entering into a no-cost contract with the company, receiving the highest rating, California Dining Services, for a 3-year term beginning January 2019. California Dining Services has been providing cafeteria management services for the district since 2004. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions by my colleagues?
Nope.
I'm glad that you're going with those people. I think they do a good job. May I have a motion from my colleague?
I'll move the item.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Would the clerk call the roll?
Mayor Benoit,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell, yes. Dr. Parker,
Yes.
Dr. Burke,
Yes.
motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Alatrap, been waiting on you all day.
I'm sorry it took so long this morning. I apologize for that. As you know, thank you, Chairman Burke. As you know, the district has a very robust environmental justice program. This item is to issue an RFP to seek proposals from individuals and organizations to augment our staff's efforts for our environmental justice program. They will also assist us in not only with this program, but also our environmental justice community partnership program, which has been very successful in working with individuals and community groups to assist us in gaining more knowledge about what's happening in their individual communities. So we're asking to issue this RFP, and we'll be coming back to the committee to recommend a firm to continue the partnership.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion from the board? Second. We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk call the roll?
Mayor Benoit,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Mitchell,
Yes.
Dr. Parker,
Yes.
Dr. Burke,
Yes.
motion passes.
Mr. Alatorre, can I ask you, we talked about the possibility of doing a program with the students. Has that ever gotten any traction?
So, yes, sir, we have, internally, we have had many discussions about this. We've actually reached out to an organization that has air quality program for students. And so we're gonna be bringing this item in the future to you for funding, because it is a significant investment for this.
Yeah, I know it's expensive, but I think for the children, I think it's something you gotta get them started early. Anyway, thank you very much. And the next item, 13, is just a written report.
Yes, sir.
14, is there any other business before the admin committee meeting this morning? Hearing none, is there any public comment in the district?
Yes, we have one public comment.
Okay, Mr. Etter. We'd like to hear from Mr. Etter.
Actually, it's Mrs. Gerber has a card in from Clean Energy. I don't have any other public comment cards at this time.
Well, Harvey raised his hand.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Good
Okay.
morning. I'm from Clean Energy. We're an alternative fuel company. I don't know if you noticed the large 12-liter engine truck out in the parking lot, but I wanted just to invite you all after your meeting to stop by and take a look at this technology. This is a low NOx truck that runs on natural gas. It's been in a cross-country road rally, and today it's actually making its 14th and almost a final stop in California. And AQMD has been kind enough to host this stop so that the workforce here can come out and learn more about this technology. So I just wanted to invite you to come out and see what happens when you combine a 12-liter low NOx engine and renewable natural gas. It is the cleanest fueling option available today. Thank you.
Thank you. And you can tell Mr. Littlefair that we like this truck. Okay. Mr. Etter?
Hi, I'm Harvey Etter. I'm talking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition in reference to renewable natural gas. Okay, they're taking credit for emitting methane with the new high numbers directly into the atmosphere. This is not right. At the very most, it should be the emissions from flaring and preferably putting it in the ground. These are waste sources from sewage systems, landfills, and feedlots. 70% of human antibiotics go to feedlots for cattle. There's drug-resistant antibiotics being put into the natural gas system. This has been brought up in the Solar New Deal and the 40 exhibits in the 16 plan that we were talking about. I've talked with Dr. Pedro Picheras, and he says they're interested in working. They weren't aware that we brought this in, that there'd been over 30 to 40,000 deaths per year in CDC about 6-8 years ago, and they're putting zeros on the end of that. It hadn't been required to report deaths in our hospitals from drug-resistant antibiotics until the first of this year. And those deaths are valued for premature death at $9 million per. Each thousand's $9 billion per year. So these are significant costs. They're being ignored, and it's illegal to bring in the fracked gas 90%. I brought this up to Mary Nichols. I asked her a question at this meeting a few days ago. Didn't get a satisfactory answer. That there's never been a study done on natural gas that's toxic. Just the benzene have several hundred deaths per million per year. And there was up in this thing about measured. I'm concerned Okay, we know there's desks, we know there's problems, and we measure and measure and measure. It reminds me like in the Middle Ages when they said that the church and stuff discussed how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. I mean, it's time to take action and solve the problem. We know we've got it. We've got to study the real world, etc. And also, putting into the 510 pages of clerk's transcript from the appellate court case in 14 to get it in the record here and for the other committees, and that this committee was not noticed. I couldn't get anyway. The same things I said at the last committee, and we got big problems, and we got to take decisive action and work together. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yes.
This is the second time that Mr. Etter has stated that notices weren't properly posted at our headquarters. Mr. Nastri, could you comment on that?
Dr. Burke, Dr. Parker, I would just let you know that after the last committee, I asked Denise Witcher, Executive Secretary, to check the postings, and both of these committees have been properly posted.
Yeah, 3 days late. They weren't here last night. When I checked this morning at like 7 o'clock, they weren't. The only thing was there was for low income, for local government and small business. And then I saw it on the sign there that said that these meetings are, the sign said 10:30 and local business was, the written paper said 11:30. There was something from Diamond Bar next to it. And then when I mentioned this with Derek, we walked over to this there. I said, well, it wasn't there an hour ago. Anyway, and it wasn't there last night. That's the truth. And I came there to pick up my phone.
He also brings up again the situation as it relates to natural gas emissions, as it relates. Well, he always wants solar. I understand that, but the natural gas emissions, and we never seem to respond to that.
Are you referring to the
I know Mr. Fine is not here. And Mr. Fine would probably do 25 minutes, but can somebody do a couple minutes?
Are you referring to the antibiotics aspect? Or are you referring to the methane aspect? Toxic?
Whatever Mr. Etter is talking about, it's not what I'm talking about. I'm just listening to what he's talking about. He says that the emissions from natural gas are not being calculated in a manner that is appropriate. Is that your conclusion, Mr. Etter?
Yes, it needs to be studied, and that's as per conversations with Dr. Linda Smith, that does it, is headed as a card, and told me, I said, well, should you study it? This is a couple years ago. She said, no. She said, I should
study it. Okay, I got it.
And the Saliso Canyon, it should have been part of that, and I was lied to and told the district it didn't have anything to do with that, excuse me.
In keeping with that, I've never heard a response to that.
Dr. Burke, we have a fundamental disagreement in what's being evaluated and how it's being evaluated and overall risk. We believe that we are evaluating it correctly, that the risk, the threat that's raised by Mr. Etter is perhaps not in line with...
Who made the determination that we were evaluating it correctly?
I can have Dr. Fine put together at the...
Oh, no, don't send Dr. Fine. No, don't send, I'll capitulate it. Don't send Dr. Fine.
That's like
I have something to do before December. But, so, have we ever thought about, just a question, have we ever thought about going to an independent third party to evaluate our determination?
No, we rely on EPA, we rely on CARB, we rely on a lot of other organizations.
So you're saying that EPA EPA agrees with us.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And do you know, do you know what the EPA's decision is based on? I don't think they have any documents to back that up.
Well, I'm gonna keep pursuing it, Mr. Adder.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comment?
I don't have any other public comment cards. No more here.
None here.
And we have none here. So I'm going to adjourn the admin committee meeting until December 14th, 2018 at 10 a.m.
Thank you, Winner.